My dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In this lecture, we will be talking about histogram, which is one of the types of frequency diagrams. Students, frequency diagrams relate to diagrammatic presentation of frequency distributions. In such series, values of a variable repeat themselves number of times. There are three important forms of frequency diagrams. First, histogram. Second, polygon or frequency curve. And third, Augur curve. In the present lecture, our focus will be on the presentation of data with the help of histogram. So, let us first discuss what is meant by a histogram. Students, histogram is a graphical presentation of a frequency distribution of continuous series. That is, it's used for continuous type of data. A histogram consists of rectangles, each of which has width equal or proportional to the size of the concerned class interval and height equal or proportional to the corresponding frequencies, which means that the width of rectangular bars in case of histogram represent the class intervals and height represent corresponding frequencies. Histogram was first introduced by a British statistician named Carl Pearson in 1891. While constructing a histogram, the values of variables, that is class intervals, are shown on the x-axis and their frequencies are shown on the y-axis. The size of class intervals defines the width of rectangles and their corresponding frequencies define the height of rectangles. Different rectangles meet each other from left to right. Students, the total area of the rectangles in a histogram represent total frequency of a data set. It may be noted that if the data are in form of an inclusive series, these are first converted into exclusive series before constructing a histogram. There are two types of histograms. One, histograms of equal class intervals, and second, histograms of unequal class intervals. First, histograms of equal class intervals. Students, histograms of equal class intervals are those which are based on the data with equal class intervals. A statistical series with equal class intervals would make a histogram including rectangles of equal width. However, height of rectangles would be different. It would be in proportion to the class frequencies. In order to understand the process of constructing a histogram of equal class intervals, let us take an illustration here. The table given here shows the number of students corresponding to different range of marks in, let us take subject economics. We have to present this information in the form of a histogram. Here we see class intervals, that is the size of each class, are equal, which is 10. Moreover, the data are in form of an exclusive series, that is the series in which the higher limit of one class interval repeats itself as the lower limit of next class interval. So we don't need to make any adjustment in the data set. We can straightly represent it with the help of a histogram as shown in the figure given here. Since the class intervals are equal, take the frequency on the y-axis and the values of variable on the x-axis and construct adjacent rectangles. This set of rectangular bars so obtained gives histogram. As we can see here, the width of rectangles or bars are equal due to the constant class size. However, the height of rectangles are different, which are proportional to the class frequencies. Dear students, as we can see here, a histogram looks like a bar diagram. But in real case, histograms are different from bar diagrams because bar diagrams are only one-dimensional diagrams where only length of the bars is considered for purpose of comparison. However, in case of histograms, both length and breadth, or we can say width of the bars are considered for the purpose of a comparison. Hence, histograms are two-dimensional diagrams. Moreover, as we can see here, there are no gaps between the bars in case of a histogram. That is, different bars meet each other from left to right as the variable is in continuous form. But in case of bar diagrams, gaps should be left between the bars as values of a variable in that very case are in discrete form. Now coming to another type of a histogram, which is histogram of unequal class intervals. Students, a histogram of unequal class interval is the one which is based on the data with unequal class interval. That is, the class intervals having unequal size. When class intervals of a statistical series are unequal, both width and height of the rectangles would be different. The width of rectangles would increase or decrease depending upon the increase or decrease in the size of the class interval. Before presenting such type of data in the form of histogram graphs, frequencies of unequal class intervals are adjusted. And how do we adjust the frequencies of unequal class intervals? Students, frequencies of unequal class intervals can be adjusted with the help of the formula given here, that is, adjusted frequency of a class is equal to minimum class size divided by class size of the concerned class multiplied by frequency of the concerned class. Let us illustrate this with the help of an example given here in this slide. The table given here gives the mass of 48 objects measured to the nearest gram, and we have to present this information with the help of a histogram. Just look at the table carefully. Here we can see that the class intervals are not uniform. Like the class size of first and third class interval is 10. The size of second and fifth class interval is 5. And the size of fourth class interval is 15. Thus, in this data set, we have unequal class intervals. Moreover, the data in this table are in the form of an inclusive series, So, before constructing a histogram for this data set, we need to adjust the frequencies of unequal class intervals. We also need to convert the inclusive data series into exclusive series. Now look at the table given in this slide. We have converted the inclusive data series into exclusive series as given in the first column of the table. How do we do that? Students just add 0.5 to the upper limit of each class interval and subtract 0.5 to the lower limit of each class interval. The inclusive series will get converted into exclusive series as shown in the first column of this table. Now we need to adjust the frequencies. For that very purpose, let us add another column to the previous table where we mentioned class size as given in the third column of current table. Here we can see the non-uniform class size. We can also see that the minimum class size is 5. Now let us add another column which gives the adjusted frequency of each class. Adjust the frequencies with the help of the formula, which is adjusted frequency of a class is equal to minimum class size divided by class size of the concerned class multiplied by frequency of the concerned class. Students, for the first row, which is 9.5 to 19.5 class interval, the adjusted frequency is minimum class size, which is 5, divided by the class size of concerned class, which is 10, multiplied by frequency of the concerned class, which is 6. So it is 5 divided by 10 multiplied by 6, which is then equal to 3. So we get our adjusted frequency for the first class interval as 3. Similarly, we do it for the rest of the rows. So we have got our adjusted frequencies as 3, 4, 6, 6 and 8. Now we can present the information with the help of histogram given in this slide. Here along x-axis we take the mass of objects and along y-axis we take the adjusted frequencies. Just notice the figure. For each of the rectangles, the width is determined by the class interval or class size and height is determined by adjusted frequencies. Thank you.